Greetings, my friends. It's another week, and we are continuing our journey through the New Testament in 1 year. And this week, we continue our look at the book of Luke. And we're going to do a summary of chapters 12 through 16. Now, in chapter 12, you're going to see several warnings Jesus is giving his disciples and giving us as well. You're going to see warnings against greed, warning about worrying, a warning about being prepared, and so on. I think the warning about worrying is one of the more familiar warnings, because Jesus tells us, not to spend our lives worrying about everything that God will provide. And I think what Jesus is trying to tell us is, it's human nature to worry. We are going to worry. When our teenage daughter or son is out past curfew, we're going to worry about where he or she may be. So it's natural for us to worry. However, I think what Jesus is warning us about is what is referred to as a toxic worry, and that is a type of worry that consumes us, a worry that can actually affect us physically. It can have some health ramifications with it. And so Jesus does not want us to worry to the point where it begins to consume our lives, and that's all we focus on, are the things around us that are scary or negative. Because if we just focus on them, of course, we are not going to be focusing on what our purpose is, what God has given us to do, and that is, of course, to glorify Him and to build His ministry, to build His kingdom here on earth. So, warning about worry, that's a pretty good section there, and I think there's some good things there that we can all take away. All right, then we get into chapter 13. We see healing on the Sabbath, just one of a few occasions that we're going to see an instance where Jesus heals on the Sabbath. We see the growth of God's kingdom. He uses two illustrations for this, the mustard seed and the yeast. He talks about who will be saved and sorrow for Jerusalem. We move into chapter 14, and there we see another healing on the Sabbath story. We see lessons on humility and generosity. And then we get down to chapter 14, verse 25 forward, and we see discipleship's demands. I want you to pay particularly close attention to this, because there are some confusing aspects about this section. And if you come on Thursday morning, I'm sure this will be something that will be brought up. So spend an extra few minutes on this section and see what it is that you can take away from it. Because Jesus says, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother and spouse and children and brothers and sisters and even one's own life cannot be my disciple." And that word hate is a very strong word. And then he goes on, "Whoever does not carry their own cross and follow me cannot be my disciples." So spend a few more minutes on that section and meditate on it and see what God says to you through these words. And if you come on Thursday morning, I'd be interested to hear what you have to share. And then he goes into chapter 15, occasions for celebration. And then chapter 16, we finish up for the week, faithfulness with money, and that's another interesting section. He talks about there in verse 10, "Whoever is faithful with little is also faithful with much, and the one who is dishonest with little is also dishonest with much." I really like that verse, because what it tells me is that if we are not able to be good stewards and use what God gives us here in a way that glorifies Him and best serves Him and His people, then God is not going to give us anything more here to use to glorify Him and serve Him and His people. So if we cannot be trusted with a little, then God is not going to trust us with a lot. And that's why it's very important for us as a church to come together to discern what God's vision is for us as His people, to ensure that we are using His resources in the way that He wants us to use them. Because if we aren't using His resources, the resources He's giving us now in a way that He wants us to use them, then we shouldn't expect Him to give us any more to use. So 16 is a very good chapter in the book of Luke. Jesus responds to the Pharisees, and then we conclude chapter 16. So I hope your readings are going well, and I hope God's blessing you through them. And as always, come and join us Thursday mornings at the church, 9 o'clock. We'll have coffee and donuts. And until then, I hope God blesses you through your time in His Word.